had a youth sent to him. And the Sheikh mentions a number of points, a number of benefits, just general here in relation to this. He said that he chose a youth because the youth is more suited to learning. And the learning of a young youth is something that remains with him. And that's why learning at a young age is far better by a great deal than learning in old age. Even though in old age you can still learn. Well, it's not impossible, the Sheikh says. But obviously, when you are younger, it is far better uh, because there are numerous benefits in learning at a young age. First benefit is that a youth is more swift in memorizing than the older person. Why is this? This is because the Sheikh says لأن الشاب فارغ البال ليست عنده مشاكل توجب انشغاله توجب انشغاله. He said that first reason is, and the first benefit learning when you are young is that a youth is swifter in memorization because the youth does not have like the preoccupations of the mind that an older person has. Older person, he's a father, he's a grandfather, he has children, he has responsibilities, he has a livelihood and things like this. Many issues preoccupy him, and they occupy his mind. And so because that mind is not clean and empty, therefore it's difficult to commit to memory, when there are these preoccupations which exist in the background in the mind of an elder person. That's the first reason, the first benefit. The second benefit, he says, أنما يحفظه الشاب يبقى وما يحفظه الكبير ينسى. Because he says the second benefit is that what a youth memorizes remains, what the old person memorizes is forgotten. This is like in general, generally speaking. I mean, there are, in old age, you can, if you put your mind to it, you can learn, you can memorize, it is possible. And there are many scholars who learned in their old age, memorized the Quran and became scholars. This is like in general. Overwhelmingly, it's the case that you find it much harder to memorize in old age. ولهذا كان من الحكمة الشائعة بين الناس. This is why it is said, like there's a piece of wisdom there is spread amongst the people. إن العلم في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر لا يزول. Right? He said there's a piece of wisdom that is said amongst the people, which is that indeed knowledge, acquiring knowledge in youth is like inscribing on a stone. Right? So when you etch something on the stone, you find that it remains. This is why you'll find, like in caves for from thousands of years ago, you'll find etchings, and they're still there, because etching on stone is something which is permanent. So if I take this analogy, or if I take this example and take it to what the Sheikh said, so when you are young, the analogy is that acquiring knowledge and memorizing when you are young, very young, right, age of 6, 7, 8, 9, the ability to memorize, it's like etching on the stone. As you grow older, then it becomes more like etching or inscribing on butter. So when there's heat, it will melt and it will be gone. And as you grow older and older, it will be like trying to write on water. You can't write in water. It's the moment you try to, the water is fluid. Water is fluid, right? So it's not going to remain etched or inscribed. And so this is the general process which happens if you are someone who does not take care in, and there are many factors involved. Obviously it is not committing sins, because sins, they leave a stain on the heart and they affect a person's ability to memorize and also to grasp and understand things, right? That's obviously one of the main things. And there are many other things as well, obviously, good habits. There are the issues to do with just general habits of sleeping well, sleeping on time, and sleeping well, getting sufficient sleep. Because what happens in your sleep is that your body, it consolidates the experiences of the day. So whatever things you've experienced in the day, things you've learned, things you've experienced, when you're sleeping, those things are consolidated. They're meaning they are sense is made of them. right? Your body, you make sense of them, and connections are made subconsciously while you sleep. So you need that to have that rest. You must have that rest. Likewise, good habits, as we said, and likewise also the way and the manner in which you acquire knowledge, the way in which you acquire the knowledge and memorize the knowledge. You begin with simple, basic things, the basic foundations. You memorize them, and then on top of that foundation, just like you do with a house, for example, what you do first, you lay the foundations. Obvious. You lay the foundations, stable, solid foundations. Once the stable, solid foundations are there, then you start building the walls, and then all the fine details go in place. In the same way, it is with knowledge as well. And so everything now has context, right? There's an actual context to everything. Whereas if you learn haphazardly and things out of place, then they don't have a context and a sequence within which everything makes sense, right? And so it becomes scrambled. Like then it becomes harder to to remember, to memorize. Also, and this is one of the modern things, which is the great danger to learning and memorization, is this whole social media and being bombarded with thousands upon pieces of information, all of which are disjointed, disconnected. And so what's happening is that you are just scrambling your mind and um, making your attention divided to so many different things, and it just becomes your understanding becomes very shallow, and your ability to remember becomes uh, very severely compromised. And so this is one of the great modern dangers of our time. I advise you not to spend too much time. It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, there is tremendous utility. On the other hand, it comes at a huge cost. So it's very deceptive. And as you know, even if you just simply think about it, how is it possible? And I've mentioned this frequently and often, is that why is it that the scholars of the past, were able to memorize a great deal? It's because of absence of preoccupation. There's nothing else preoccupying your mind and your time. You just have pure dedication to whatever it might be, the Quran, the Sunnah, to just thinking and reflecting and cogitating, letting the mind work on the basis of what has been preserved and memorized. This is what the scholars of the past used to do. And so uh, this analogy, like so if you don't take these few steps, then your mind will become like what we've just said. It will be like a block of butter or a pail of water. You try to write something on it, it might last for maybe, as soon as it's warm, it just melts and it's all gone. And so you have to make your mind like a rock, like a young child. And that is, there's many different ways. From them also is good nutrition. If you go to Ibn Rajab's commentary, Jami al-Ulum al-Hikam, on the 40 hadith of An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he does add 10 of his own hadith at the end. And from those 10 additional hadith is the hadith of the Messenger of Allah, in which he said that indeed the worst container that the son of Adam can fill is the belly, is the stomach. So if you go back to Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali's commentary on that hadith, you will find that he brings many narrations from the Salaf, from the Sahaba, all of which mention that going hungry or having little food is extremely beneficial for the mind, for sharpness, for intellect, right? And again, this comes back to the same thing, just like we said before, that a person who's older, he has many preoccupations in life which concern him in his mind, right? His responsibilities, he's a father, he's a grandfather, livelihood, dealing with life's difficulties, challenges, his mind's preoccupied. In the same way with nutrition, depending on what you eat and how much you eat, whenever you eat, there's always an after effect of what you eat. Just like in the same way, if you take different things and you burn them, you burn paper, you get a certain type of ash. You burn wood, you get a certain type of ash that's left behind. You burn plastic, extremely toxic. So what's left behind and what is produced in the process, extremely toxic, right? This is poisonous. You burn coal, you get it. So in the same way, when you eat and it becomes digested, it's the same analogy, same thing. Your body is basically burning, like burning the food. Metabolism and absorption, it's the same thing, right? So what you eat and how much you eat, there's always like a residue left over, right? That residue remains in your body and affects, like, again, it has an effect on your, like, your fitness. Does it make you lazy? Does it make you tired? Does it, make your mind a bit compromised so you find it hard to concentrate? These are real and true effects which happen over, you know, with different diets, right? So the less that you eat, or you eat only what suffices you, then you are not using up your body's resources that are best left for other things, right? And so this too helps affect, sorry, the mind and the ability to think and reflect, and so on and so forth. So all of these, when we put all of these things together, they affect a person's ability to, as we said, to memorize, and so that's why, as I said, that if you want to preserve your faculties in old age, then you have to look at all these things. Look at your diet, look at your sleep. Don't distract your mind and have multiple preoccupations, like micro, um, uh, thousands of different pieces of information that your mind is scattered. You're harming yourself. You're harming yourself a great deal by doing that. Likewise, sleep. Sleeping on time, getting sufficient sleep. There's so many things which are involved. Obviously, this is a diversion from the main point. The point being that your mind can either be a rock, piece of butter, or it can be like a bucket of water in terms of inscription onto the whatever. Right? So you've got to take steps to make sure it remains like a rock and doesn't become like a pail of water. And people perceive and notice this as you go through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. When you start hitting 40s, 50s, people start realizing, I can't remember things anymore. I can't, it's a true and real effect. Whereas what we know from what we find narrations from the scholars and from the, that as a person grows older, his mind and intellect should become sharper, because this is because of acquired knowledge and acquired wisdom, and doing all the right things, eating well, eating in moderation, looking after the body, and it should actually become sharper, and you should become more wise. Why? Because more wisdom is because you've acquired more knowledge, more experience. That's how it should be. This is what the normal thing should be, right? You become sharper and you become stronger, not the other way around. So um so that was the second benefit. Right? That indeed knowledge in youth is like inscribing on a rock. And then he says there is a third benefit too, which is وهي أن الشاب إذا ثقف العلم من أول الأمر صار العلم كالسجية له والطبيعة له. Right? This is when a youth, if a youth is brought up, trained and cultured upon knowledge from the very beginning, then the knowledge will become as if it's like it's like a trait. It's something natural, right? Meaning there's nothing to it. And so this is why, just like memorization of the Quran, if you uh, get a youth from an early age to learn half a page, then it becomes like nothing. It becomes nothing. It's very easy to do that, but it becomes normal, becomes natural, right? It becomes like a trait and a quality. So then the Sheikh says that this person, he will, he will grow up in life, he will experience life, and he will know things. So coming back to the story now, this magician,